Hello everyone, welcome once again to Talking Assistant. For those of you who are on Twitter following us, make sure you're using hashtag TalkingAss. Joining us tonight, as always, is Kelly.
Hi everyone, it's Kelly Tool at KELLYTHUL on Twitter. Nice to be here.
It is, and Tony, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi everybody, I am Tony Solo on Twitter, and it's
John and Helena McGevnas. So John, do you want to start by saying hi to everyone?
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. I'm John McGevna at McGevna on Twitter, and it's a pleasure to be here to talk about The Assistant. And Mike, I tell you, I've been binge watching Oz all week just to get points and pointers on where we need to go tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was good thinking. And Helena, my side piece, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, I'm Helena at Helly McG on Twitter, and I'm just delighted to be trying to shove myself into Mike's crack.
It's an honor to have you there.
You know, it's bigger on the inside.
That is.
That's what I keep telling her.
Kelly, as someone who's been inside for a while.
Kelly, did you finally crack, Kelly?
A little bit. So Elena gets the score. Elena gets the score.
Kelly, as someone who's been inside with Tony and I for a while, is there any pointers you can give to them on how to maneuver their way around here?
I would just make sure that you have ready access to antibiotics. It's really all I'd advise at this point in time.
Well, without further ado, then, why don't we get into a little bit of The Assistant? But just to give our audience a little bit of background, how are you guys on The Assistant? Are you guys caught up? Have you been watching from the beginning? Did you start a little bit later and binge watch? How did you get into this?
Well, I started a little later, and Helena was telling me all about it, and she said, we've really got to start watching this from the very beginning to get an appreciation for it. So I binge watched about the first, I'd say about 14 episodes. And then since then, I've been following it regularly. And it's been getting better and better all the time. I mean, I can't wait for the full Monty. There's got to be a full Monty somewhere. Dylan has to do a full Monty for us.
Absolutely, and we got our first glimpse of Dylan's, I would say, overly pink nipple.
Yes, a little tease, which is nice. I like a little tease.
Now, do you think that was makeup, or do you think his nipples are naturally that pink?
Well, it might be a little cold in his bedroom, so they seem to be standing up there perky-like.
I think he definitely got into Dawn's Estee Lauder.
You think so? You think there's just no way his nipples are that pink?
No way. Unless, there could be like some suckage in there, so maybe so.
Yeah. So you weren't talking in code there, Helena, about her getting into Dawn's Estee Lauder, just making sure.
Never.
Okay.
Good. Would you like to weigh in on Dylan's nipples?
Well, that's the second episode, and we only saw one. And so one of the things I'm wondering is, as he talked about being a Time Lord as such, and human, that he could take his two hearts that a Time Lord has and make them one at will. I'm not 100% sure, and this may be the big reveal, is that Dylan may only have one nipple.
Or perhaps he has 4.
Or 3.
Or he wears a pirate eye patch over one of them.
Now, are we talking about his hearts or nipples now?
His nipples. We're going to stay on Dylan's nipples hard, I think.
Yeah, no.
Really focus on them.
We have to focus of our attention right now. Tony, what did you think of Dylan's nipple?
As you guys can probably guess, I am not Team Nipple. I was totally distracted by the hairiness of it all, I tried not to pay attention, although I must say, Mike, that you've been asking for male nudity, and now you've got I believe, Helena and John in your camp, John's asking for a full Monty now, and Helena seems to approve of the bare-chested, barrel-chested Dylan. So you've got a...
I always approve of full male nudity.
I'm with you on that.
And I'm not 100% sure on barrel-chested. I might go saucepan-chested. I just don't know. But barrel-chested seems a little generous at this point. But it might have been the camera angle.
Well, yes. I'm going to go camera angle, and there was some curvature there. So
maybe we can talk about getting a wax job. Get the chest hair. It'll go to the exfoliation route.
Dolphin Smooth.
Dolphin Smooth has got to be. That's got to be our Dylan. I want him Dolphin Smooth.
Yeah, but he'd have to have he'd have to have Dawn do it for him, because
I'm sure she'd love to do that for him.
Because we definitely want to see that, in an episode if we could.
Well, then he should be doing it to himself. We should actually see a full episode of manscaping.
Yep. With hot wax. Lots of hot wax.
John, you seem to know a little bit too much about manscaping.
I do. I'm afraid I've been educated by a certain individual who she will remain nameless about this.
But have you participated in the manscaping, or have you just been told about it?
I've been told about it in rather graphic detail, and I'm rather frightened, and I've been scarred by it, scarred deeply.
So you have gotten the Brazilian wax, is what you're trying to tell us.
Someone is trying to talk me into that, but
Come on, it's a good idea. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it's hygienic, isn't it?
It is. Ask anybody.
They're bears, John. They're bears. They like the hairiness, I think.
There are people who enjoy that.
Yes.
It's a big world. We have to be understanding.
So, what did you guys think about Inventory, the episode? Because we kind of been focusing on the nipple, but we haven't been talking about the previous episode, as Kelly pointed out.
Well, I thought it was interesting the way it started with him holding his sack and showing us the items that he collected.
That's an interesting observation, because near the end of the episode, and I don't want to rush through it, but he does point out he's got silver and gold. And then that started to remind me of, like, Santa Claus is coming to town. So I thought maybe that was like a codpiece. The pouch maybe was a codpiece for one of the elves or something, because it was silky and smooth.
That's an excellent observation. Whenever I think of Santa, my mind immediately goes to elven codpiece.
Silky smooth elven codpiece.
Great band name. And we needed to remember at the beginning, this is the lyricism, the lyricalness of the phrasing haunted me. I repeated it down the halls at work all week long. I almost changed my Twitter bio to it, but early on, as he was going through his inventory, and if you go back and listen to the episode, you will hear these magic words: Gary's silken bag, kind of silky, small, and it's touching.
Now, Kelly, do you prefer a bag that's larger or a bag that's smaller but silky like that?
I really have no opinion on bags. I'm actually free of opinion on the matter. How about you, Mike?
I think it all depends on the individual and how it fits them and their physicality. You can't just walk around with a huge bag if you're a more slight-framed person.
Well, if you go the full Brazilian, you do need something silky and smooth down there, or it'll chafe. I've been told. I don't know for a fact, but I've been told that.
Yes, he's been told. He heard from a friend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got it, John.
Okay, good.
You're off the hook.
I myself prefer them silky, small, but bedazzled.
bedazzled. I've
Yeah.
never seen that. But then
I will
again,
yes.
I mean, I know there's rings and things that you can do to, you know, you can put some ornamentation down there, but
Hmm.
yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it all depends on what you're using the bag for. You know,
What
because
about the items that Dylan had?
well, yeah, I mentioned the silver and gold. I'm guessing that he probably still has some more items to find, because it looks like they're almost pieces to a puzzle that have to be put together in some way, shape, or form.
Well, and we saw with the gold, and the tricky thing here is that gold very craftily is a brass color to almost, so it's almost like it's brass and not gold. But there was some etchings on there, and I believe Dylan made out the glyphs of HAR, which I'm going to guess if once he discovers the rest of it, it's going to say hard to read.
Ooh.
That is a very astute observation on your part, Dylan. Now,
But
We
one
almost
thing
had
I'm
the
not,
liquid come out the nose there.
yeah, interject there. One point on that: when he turned the badge over, or whatever it is, he pricked his finger on it, and then he just started telling us about the writing on the front and going on, and then he got sick.
so the prick and the bag go together.
They normally do.
So that could have been,
He could have been poisoned.
or it could be just a D bag. It could be a douchebag.
Yeah.
Or it could have been
Feedback.
connected to Sleeping Beauty being pricked by the spindle.
Which, Dylan, if you look in the layout of his scene, he was exactly in the repose of Sleeping Beauty from the Disney classic. So,
And that's what I think of when I think of Dylan, actually, is, Sleeping Beauty.
Well, he also, right at the end, when he started to get sick, was anybody hoping that we were going to get video of that, or are you guys all
Well,
happy
as you
that
guys
we
know,
didn't see
I
that?
am a fan of vomit gore films, particularly the Slaughtered Vomit Dolls trilogy. So I was kind of hoping he would go that route, but maybe it was just too intense to throw onto the audience this early in. Kelly, were you hoping that Dylan would would splatter us, so to speak?
sometimes the most powerful action is that which occurs off screen. So I think structurally, I'm fine with the artistic choice to have that inferred rather than documented. Because Dylan is he's a subtle filmmaker. I mean, he's not gonna have to lay every little piece out for you. So.
No, I like that. It's very reminiscent of Raise the Red Lantern in that respect.
Was that some sort of Paul Revere infected movie, or I'm not familiar with Raise the Red Lantern?
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's about Asian concubines fighting each other in the hierarchy of the household. But it's subtle. It wasn't so much that I think that Dylan is an Asian concubine. It was more the subtlety of the filmmaking.
But you're not ruling it out.
I'm not ruling it out because this could go anywhere.
Okay.
Now, if he does manscape, then the Asian concubine issue does come up.
It's possible. Maybe we've stumbled onto something here that we never expected to, and that's why it's always interesting to get a fresh perspective like this. This is an excellent.
And you did note that in the closed captioning, I think on the second episode, in the closed captioning there was made mention of Asian something.
Yes, exactly.
So,
these are the layers he works in.
Yeah.
And also the Russians were mentioned.
That's correct.
We've do we know for a fact, are we guessing what's going on as far as, like, are these aliens and what kind of aliens? Because maybe they're Asians or Russians, or or are these, Kelly being our resident expert in the Doctor Who universe?
We have two new people here that could very easily exceed my Doctor Who knowledge.
I'm afraid my knowledge kind of ends with good old Tom Baker.
And we're about the same place.
Yeah.
Okay. So, were aliens prevalent in the Doctor Who timelines?
Significantly.
Significant presence.
Okay, so, but now here goes the next question, and you guys might not know the answer. Were aliens always the antagonists in the Doctor Who storylines, or were there, different humans that were? Because, I've said all along that it's quite possible that the voices that Dylan's been getting in his head, and it's even possible that it's Dylan from the future coming back to help Dylan in this present, get through whatever he's got to get through at this point. Like I've stated, it's possible that the intruder isn't a bad guy at all, but came back and gave Dylan some kind of inoculation or implanted.
So you're saying that it's Dylan himself who set up taking that prick?
Yes, Dylan from the future could be a prick, but I'm going back to the intruder episode where somebody came in and touched him with the red object while he was sleeping, and it was Dylan.
What are your thoughts on the obvious genital imagery that Dylan uses in this show?
Overall?
Overall.
I'm going to wait. Hold on. Before she answers, I'm going to say I'm guessing she approves. But go ahead.
I approve.
Points for Tony.
I'm thinking that it probably has some sort of connection to power and strength. That's what I'm going to say. The all of the phallic imagery is about.
Always has been.
Well, depends on where you are.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Nothing.
I think this is a good time to throw out hashtag penis power.
And be sure and use the additional hashtag of talking Brazilian tonight for tonight's episode, since we do always have a subtopic. I did want to point out at the end of Sick that if you notice that Dylan in the identical Sleeping Beauty pose was not resting his head on a pillow, but in fact was resting his head on a suitcase.
Yes.
Which I think is a signal that he is going to be traveling possibly to Asia Land, and so that we could see what happens there. Yes.
Now, what time zone is Asia Land, Kelly?
I believe that's Pacific Asia Land time.
Okay, that sounds legit.
Also known as it's either today, tomorrow, or yesterday.
Yeah, it's a square root of whatever it is in Australia, basically.
Okay, so I'm going to interject that at this point it shouldn't matter to Dylan because he's a Time Lord. So it shouldn't make a difference.
Good point, Tony.
What time zone he's in. But it's interesting because I think Dylan in the sickness episode, he was really, really subdued for, obviously he laid low by some kind of stomach virus where he had, all sorts of awful liquids coming out of every orifice imaginable.
Yeah, he was laid hard by that virus.
And yeah, he was. And but he was. I don't know. It seems like he's like
Ebola can be.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it could be. It could be, but
Ebola, Asia, and Russia referenced in the same episode.
In Asia Land.
But he must have some kind of bionic, super mutated Ebola, because if it was getting, if it was the prick that gave him the Ebola, there was no 21-day incubation period. It went from, it was a 21-second barely
Now, do we?
incubation period.
Now he's a Time Lord. He could have gone back in time. That could have happened 21 or 25 days ago. And then,
Right, or the incubation period could be different with him being a Time Lord. And do we know for sure that Ebola can be passed through a prick?
I believe that kind of contact does allow it to be passed that way.
Okay.
Unless it's,
Getting back to the suitcase, I mean, in the past we were wondering whether or not we were going to see different locations other than the ones that we've already seen, and could that suitcase that is behind Dylan in sickness be, a hint that maybe we're going to see another location coming up soon.
Or perhaps the suitcase could be his TARDIS.
That would be somewhat of a letdown, don't you think? I would think it would have to be like a big surprise, like a great reveal. But what I was wondering, if Dylan had ever considered doing like a flashback episode where we would see a different version of Dylan in his full Time Lord powers, being able to fight an alien or something along those lines, but or a flash forward where we see future Dylan coming back, like we see the other side of the intruder episode. If it is Dylan coming from the future, we see Dylan making the plan, saying, I've got to go back and help myself in the past get to do this, and kind of explain some of the stuff that's going on that way. That, and we need to get him into a strip club.
I'd like to see him save the Duke of Asia Land from an assassination attempt.
in a stripper club.
In a stripper club. You want to know? I'd love to see that, Kelly, but you're actually increasing the budget well beyond what Dylan's going to be able to put together as far as Asia Land. You're talking about creating a whole continent, I think, almost.
The flights are cheap. I checked Kayak. I think he could pull it off.
Well, all he has to do is really go to a nail manicure, station. That's full of, appropriate support, Asian-wise. Doing manicures and pedicures.
Or a massage parlor.
Oh yeah.
And if he pays...
Not that I know anything about massage parlors.
Well, of course.
The sickness. So.
Yeah, but what is the sickness leading to? That's what we don't know yet.
Well, yeah, we don't know, but there's so many different ways this can go, and hey, as John pointed out, it was the gold item that made Dylan sick, and there could have been something on there, but again, the voice in his head was the one who directed him to those items. So, if it made him sick and it leads him to harm, then, is the voice in his head a good witch or a bad witch? And, I've been stating all along that it's quite possible that the voice in his head is, Dylan from the future, trying to help him through whatever he's got to get through, which we don't know. I mean, he's getting his memories back, and he's got to find his TARDIS still. Wanted to be in a strip club.
Is it possible that someone or his crazy alien intruder person are they trying to kill him, perhaps?
I'm sure.
Was the prick thing? Was the was the badge poison?
Well, here goes the thing. And we're getting close to the end of our time, but um, it was the voice who led him to, and the one item that he did not have when he showed inventory should have been the bat, because the visions, the dreams, and the voice in his head had been leading him to the bat, led him to the items that he found in Fortress, the
Yeah, but he
bed.
found them in that factory. We don't know if that's good or bad or.
Right, but still, the voice was compelling him to go and pick up those items. So
Now, in the closed caption of that episode, they also mention the Red Peace ship.
well, yes, but
Yeah.
I think what he actually said was, and I think the closed captioning was, um, the alien piece of shit.
Right.
For
Which could have been code for Red Peace ship.
it
And
could have
Russians
been,
in red, yeah.
but where I'm going with this is that if at this point, the item made Dylan sick, and he got the item because he was listening to the voice in his head, then he should just stop listening to the voice in his head, because it directed him to get injured. So my assertion is that the voice in his head is good. Okay, it's either a future Dylan, but it's something that's trying to help him, and it's quite possible that
Help
prick,
protect him.
yeah, that prick that he got, was like him getting a flu shot. You know.
So it did make him sick, but for some greater good purpose.
Right. Well, like it gave him the flu, because when you get the flu shot, you can possibly get the flu, but if you get it, usually it's, low grade, and then when the real flu comes around, you don't get it. But with any kind of vaccine, you are getting a portion of a live virus, so there's a possibility. And I'm just trying to draw a parallel, to what could happen in real life when it comes to something like that. But there's the force that's working against Dylan that we saw in battle, and then there's a force that's working with Dylan. It's possible that Dylan was placed where he is because a future foe is going to move into that house. Remember that house that was empty that we were
Yes.
seeing at the beginning?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so that could be the location of his future foe, and he's already in place. So when the time for a battle comes, he's ready, and the future foe doesn't know that Dylan's there and has already been planning for it. So what I'm saying is he's a Time Lord, but there's the future Dylan comes back and is trying to guide him through to get him up to speed to where he's got to be when it's time for that battle to occur.
It has to get him ready. I mean, he can't be
Right.
blundering into it.
Right. Right now, he is blundering around and he doesn't know what's going on, and he's in the minor leagues. And if he had to do any Time Lord type stuff, he's not prepared. He's more prepared now than he was, at the beginning of this, but he's still probably not, at a level where he could fight for his.
Maybe that's what the prick is all about, and getting him sick. Like you said, it's something that's going to ultimately strengthen him against whatever he's going to face.
Right. So
Or give him the strength to fight off whatever he has to fight off.
yes. So now it's just a waiting game to see what happens. But I mean, there's so many things that are going on, so many different levels, like Kelly said earlier. So much is going on, and for, it's almost as if there's a cast of thousands and there is not.
So do we think that the introduction of new characters would be a good thing, or do we think that would actually add something to this, or are we better off with just the one-on-one interaction?
I don't know. Right now it's kind of like a narrative,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it almost reminds me of, okay, we can get back to Asian. If you've ever seen like a Japanese movie where a lot of times you'll see the actor, and then you'll hear like the voiceover.
Mm-hmm.
So the actor is not really talking, but they're telling you what's going on in their head. That's kind of what's going on with this right now. Um, it's villain. It's Dylan talking to himself almost, but he is talking into his phone because he's leaving a video journal
Now,
of
you
what's
might have
going.
just touched on something there, too. You called him villain by accident. What if it is future Dylan, but future Dylan's evil?
But if it is future Dylan and future Dylan is evil, what is he doing? Is he trying to bring Dylan to the dark side?
Possibly.
Because here
We
goes
still
the
don't
thing,
know what that sickness was all about, really.
right? Because the big problem that you get to when you start messing with time is you can't go back in time and mess with stuff, because like if you accidentally get your dad killed before you're born, before you were conceived, then you will cease to exist. If you go to a earlier version of yourself and you mess around too much, it's very hard to guide someone exactly into the correct path to get you to where you become who you are. You know what I mean? Um, there's a lot more nuance in life than just, hey, today you decided that you were going to have, a steak instead of a chicken sandwich. Okay, and that decision changed your whole life and made you evil. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, I mean, if future Dylan is evil and he did something that got present Dylan killed, then he would just poof.
Or maybe future Dylan is evil and is coming back knowing that he's gone down the wrong path and is trying to guide his younger Dylan or earlier Dylan onto the right path and not ending up evil.
Right, but once you do that, then the
Then you
evil
cease to
Dylan
exist.
ceases to exist, and then you never come back in time
To
and
change
guide
things.
yourself on the right path, so you go back on the wrong path. Now, there's when it comes to time travel, there are some people who believe that every time you make a decision, there's infinite branchings that happen from there. So when you go back, and you can go back in time and change something, but you don't change everything in every universe, because every time you make a decision, you create like a whole new universe.
A whole new universe, yes.
Right. So there are definitely different parallel time streams that you can jump back and forth to, but that just gives me a freaking headache, so I don't think about that, and I just try and stop thinking about time travel altogether.
Dylan, stop making your show super overly complicated for us to guess.
Yes, the next item you need to find is like a blue circle and say, this is a blue circle, and then tell us exactly what it's for.
He's probably watching this and thinking, like, they're so far off.
Wow, they've got some great ideas, but you want to know something? It's making my head hurt. How do I write that? I'd so love to see a flashback. You know what it'd be like? A flashback or a flash forward episode would be, Dylan, like it would be evil Spock and good Spock. Like the evil Spock had a beard, and that's all they did was they changed his shirt and they put a beard on Spock.
Right.
Mhm.
So like Dylan would just keep on coming in and out of frame, or he'd have a half a beard and half not, and then he'd just keep on turning his head for the camera, and 1 second he'd be the evil Dylan with the beard, and then he'd turn his head real quick, and then it would be the good Dylan, and you'd see the the clean shaven profile, and it
That
would
would
be
kind
both.
of be amazing. I really hope now that this whole time travel evil Dylan thing happens just for that scene.
And he needs to do it with two phones facing each other, so you get that whole infinity thing going on, so they can like talk to each other.
It's even better.
There you go.
Even better, and it'll make his low budget web series seem like he's got like $10 million CGI budget.
I was gonna say it's like he CGI'd a million of himself into it.
Like, whoa. And then some stoner will, just come by the show and say, whoa, man, check this dude out. Sometimes he's got a beard, and sometimes he doesn't. Whoa. Trippy crap.
It's like the Matrix, man.
Oh, man, no, don't.
we can entitle that episode of The Assistant, I Am Legion.
Oof. Anyway, I am looking at the clock on the
Yes,
wall.
we're coming up on Z Nation very quickly.
Yes, we
Yes. So, until next time, I
Cool.
guess.
All right. Let's wrap this up then. Mike, we have Tony, Helena, John. We used to have Kelly.
Tell Kelly we still love him.
We love Kelly.
Still love him, and Tony, sorry he asked you what kind of ice cream you're eating.
Good night, everyone.
Night, night.
Have a
Figure
good
on the
night.
inside.
Figure on the inside.
Exactly.